Thank you so much for coming here, ma'am. बहुत सारे ख्याल आपके दिमाग में आ रहे होंगे. Your first thought.
It's very difficult. These sort of occasions are very, very difficult to put in words. It's very heart-wrenching. These kind of sacrifices cannot be quantified in any words. The families are going to live with it. Some of them I've met. I can only say that we are very fortunate. We live in a country which is very, very fortunate to have such brave sons. We're very fortunate.
Over the last few weeks, you have been meeting families regularly. We have seen those images in which you have been very overwhelmed when you met them. Do you think a grateful nation, what can we do really?
I'm not sure whatever we do is going to be sufficient, but we can never afford to forget. We can never afford to forget any of the families which have come here. And not just the ministries concerned, Home Ministry or the Defense Ministry, but I think as citizens, each one of us will have to, as many times, remember these families, because they've just stood up to the occasion. Their tears are never going to dry, and it was, after all, for our country.
Ma'am, you are India's first woman full-time defense minister. Of course, Indira Gandhi had held an additional charge. How has your experience been as Raksha Mantri?
It's very difficult again to express. It's been, I'm very fortunate, I would say, to be able to be in this position. It has its own, it has everything in it, in the sense, like they say, that when you have emotions, there are about 9 different that you can identify. Every such emotion is involved when you're dealing with the Raksha Mantralaya. So, whilst your bravery for the soldiers and their bravery that you can talk about, it also means a lot more in terms of compassion, in terms of understanding, in terms of empathy. So I don't think any other experience in my life would make me feel that one has to strive constantly to be a better human being. This position makes you feel that.
There are 2 women ministers in the CCS. Should we be looking at this from the prism of gender at all, or is it about competence?
I can't escape when people look at it from the point of view of gender. But yes, I don't know if I'm competent as many other people who've held this position, male also. But I suppose eventually it is a responsibility which you have to do with full, commitment, and being conscious every minute that you're holding a position which matters in so many different ways to so many different people, and eventually to the country also. So I think being there fully is more important, and my gender shouldn't matter there.
Is this an indication that other male bastion ministries, such as Home and Finance, it's only a matter of time that we'll see women ministers there?
I think so too. There's just no line that has to be kept up. There's no need for this cannot be held by women kind of a thing. I suppose any ministry can be held by male or female. And if you ask me, women and child welfare also need not be reserved for women only.
Yes. I was about to ask you that question, that you think the time has come also to break that notion that even a man can hold charge of women and child development ministry?
I think so, because when you never gave anything for women, you at least had to give women and child welfare. But if you are able to find women who can occupy other positions, I suppose it will have a greater parity if men also can be there and do justice to women. So, why not?
Ma'am, you had said that there is no relationship between the airstrike and elections, but increasingly we are seeing that the BJP leaders are claiming credit for the aerial strikes.
BJP leaders are taking credit for what? For a decisive leadership. which, when the need arises, doesn't sit back wondering what will the globe tell us, what will happen to any repercussions or fallout, what will be the collateral damage. All these considered, we have a leadership which takes the call. So in case if BJP wants to take credit, what's wrong? It's for the sake of the country. Here is a leadership, here is a party, here's a government which has put the country's priority on top of the agenda. It has not played politics for the sake of anything else. So would you say in 1975? When Pokhran happened, Mrs. Indira Gandhi did it for the sake of votes and she didn't do it for strengthening India? I think these convoluted arguments, if they are in power, it's one thing. If somebody else is in power, oh my God, I don't want to give the credit, is now seen through by the people.
But Pakistan being invoked in every election speech, is it about generating fear, that there is an enemy such as Pakistan? Or is it more about instilling confidence in Prime Minister's leadership?
It's more about saying without fear or hesitation or some reservations in your mind that there is a neighbor who's just there, who's constantly encouraging terrorists who seem to enter this country and do all kinds of dangerous things. It is naming them instead of saying some country across the border, which is what we've been hearing in this country, across the border. Who's across the border? Why can't we say it? Very clearly we have evidence to show that terrorist camps are there. So today, that culture of across the border languages very clearly saying, it is Pakistan. You have the facts, why not say it? What is this whole wishy-washiness about it?
You have set a new template in dealing with your neighbor, Pakistan.
With Pakistan.
With Pakistan.
There,
in 2016,
it gets into a system so much, it's even within a minute, Maria is not able to get out of that.
2016 surgical strikes, 2019 aerial strikes. You have set a new template. I'm trying to understand, but this hasn't really acted as a deterrent.
Well, you have a, for want of a better word, you have a habitual someone who breaks the law or international understanding with impunity, a habitual breaker of law, that is Pakistan, repeatedly uses non-state actors to propagate violence, distances itself saying, we've not done it, our men in uniform have not done it. But that has been supported by the men in uniform in Pakistan is now globally known. So, for a country which repeatedly violates international norms of bilateral relationship or interstate border related matters, you have a fact before you. So, by repeatedly naming them and repeatedly isolating them in international fora, we are only telling Pakistan, sorry, we are not any longer going to sit and watch you fail in your own promise. Every incident has seen Pakistan say, no, we'll take care of it, give us the proof, we'll make sure such things don't happen, but we don't have any camps. You give the proof, you wait, they don't act. Haven't you seen that happening repeatedly? Even this time in Pulwama. The group which has done it sits in Pakistan and claims it. But Pakistan's government says, no, it's not us. So, by repeatedly naming and also isolating them in the international fora, you're only making it obvious.
You had said that Bofors brought Congress down, Rafale will bring Modi back. But increasingly, in electoral discourse, Rafale is not being discussed. It is about Main Bhi Chaukidar.
Which is very clearly that Rafale was not a corrupt case at all. Which was that Rafale was being whipped up for false propaganda and for fakery. Which means Rafale, from the beginning, they knew was nothing at all which will rise as an allegation. And therefore, now with Supreme Court, CAG, Parliament, everybody having answered it, it's died down. Not a natural course. They would have appeared to be absolutely foolish if they kept talking about it. So they've now moved over to talk about Chaukidar.
Talking about Maybe Chaukidar, since you have come from that event that was held of the Prime Minister, that Maybe Chaukidar, the opposition says that that is what the government has given to the country. That you are trying to talk about nationalism, national security, not as much as important issues such as jobs. You have been a commerce minister yourself, ma'am.
Yes. And I think they are partly right. That's what we've given this country, is to make every citizen feel that each one of us are a Chaukidar to the national resources. We shall not allow people to loot national resources. We shall not allow people take taxpayers' money with impunity and sit with it. We shall, each one of us, perform with such honesty that this country's natural resources or the taxpayers' money will be spent on the right thing. So like the Prime Minister rightly said today, Chaukidar is not that each one of us wear a topi, have a lathi in a hand and blow the whistle with a badge or something. It's more the spirit that all of us are trustees of this country's property. We may as well behave like one. We have to take care of it rather than loot it. That's the spirit which the Prime Minister is pushing ahead in this campaign. And all of us are extremely proud to associate ourselves with it. For the first time in this country, we have given a totally corruption-free government. And therefore, living up to the promise that we've given, we will give a clean administration. So that's what has been given. And that is why it is important.
But Rahul Gandhi says that Prime Minister is Chaukidar of rich Indians who fled the country.
Rahul Gandhi has also been calling the Prime Minister a chore. And I do not want to miss even one occasion to say two things each time he says this. Each time he calls the Prime Minister a chore, Chaukidar chore hai, when he says that, I want each one of us to remember two things. One, he has till today not shown any worthy proof to say what wrongdoing the Prime Minister has done, but goes on calling him Chaukidar chore hai. And who is this? Who himself is out on bail. Out on bail, not on a political matter. You know, sometimes when you protest, political disturbance happens, and therefore the government in power, which is, let us say, assume on a different political platform, arrests you, puts inside for a protest. 144 section is in place. You're not supposed to go and do protest, but you protested. Therefore, you were arrested. That's a different thing. Arrested and given out on bail, that's a totally different thing. Here, and I wish Maria, and I wish many senior colleagues of yours from this very eminent channel, if ever, like the way you have now with me, have a conversation with the Congress President. Please ask him,
yes,
what is it that you're out on bail on? What's the offense? Then you'll know the offense is exploiting and misusing public money to move to whatever the allegation says, into his own trust or whatever. In other words, financial misconduct. And he is calling somebody a chore on whom there's not even an FIR. Not today, since the time he's been in public life. Sheer audacity and brazenness.
Chaukidar stole the jobs of people. That's what he says.
He says Chaukidar gave 30,000 to some particular individual. Please give us proof. Show us something initially. So Kahani, you go on saying, thinking that people will listen to you, is proven completely wrong. And I don't know whoever is advising the Congress President, he's not doing them, they are not doing a favor to Congress President. It's just not done. A responsible party's president, I would have thought, will do a lot more homework before he talks.
But the question of jobs, since you
jobs.
have been the Commerce Minister.
Absolutely. On jobs, I think there's been a lot of debate, some of which is very important for us to understand. It's not just today. This country never collected data on anything other than formal jobs, organized sector jobs. And that itself is a limitation. not more than 12 to 15%. I'm not sure whether it is 12 or 15%, but not more than 20% of the entire country is in formal sector. What happens to the rest 80%? We don't even have any data. In the 80%, if you've increased the numbers by providing them with a lot of finance, credit without security being taken like the mudra roll, how do you account for that? How do you take that on board? If sectoral growth is also monitored, you'll know a lot of people now don't go in for jobs, but they take up entrepreneurship. In that, if we count it, I'm not sure if we are constantly right when we say jobs have come down.
But Nirmala ji, if the government is sure that there have been alternate avenues created, then shouldn't that data come out in the public domain to counter this?
You're right. Isn't that what is coming out when you say the total number of people who have taken mudra loan? How much have they taken? And even if they don't employ anybody, they themselves are working. But for the amounts that they take and to run their own business, they will have at least 1 or 2 people more employed under them. Are these not jobs?
What about Nyay? That is something that the reports are suggesting is getting traction on ground. How is the BJP planning to counter it?
The traction is because rightly in the media you want to give level playing field. You know, the Prime Minister is announcing so many schemes. So we should be fair to give the false equivalents. Give something even for the opposition. They are saying something is being propped up. So give them space and give them the traction. But please do ask them. Please do ask them.
6,000 rupees per annum announced by you for the farmers versus 6,000 per month that has been announced. That's the way Congress is projecting. Minimum income guarantee.
Yeah. Congress will project everything. Garibi Hattao 1971, projected by Congress. Failed by Congress. After that, every Prime Minister from that particular DNA, the Congress Parivar DNA, which I incidentally was shocked to hear, a very senior leader from the Congress party saying, first family of the country. I don't know how many of us want the first family here. How many of them consider them as a first family, but first family it is, and that's being imposed on all of us. So the first families, members, beginning from Mrs. Indira Gandhi, till the Nyay scheme, poverty is the pet theme. Not to eradicate it, keep the number of poor the same, but allot money, which can go, like today the Prime Minister correctly said, he believes in direct benefit transfer. But the Congress party was running direct dalali transfer. So if direct transfers were happening, it was for the dalals. And as a result, poverty has not been reduced.
Okay, since you are the face of the BJP in South, the decision that has been taken by the Congress party and the Congress president today about him being fielded from another constituency, and that is Wayanad.
I think I can't comment on it. He's got every right to go any number of places and contest as long as the Election Commission permits. I think 2 is allowed, so he chooses a second. But very clearly it tells me one thing. If you've been the member of parliament for a particular constituency, in this case it's Amethi, and you've served it very well, is there a need for you to look for a second?
It's Amethi plus.
And second. I'm not saying you're leaving Amethi. I'm still saying second. And again, like in many ways, many different ways, the media plays a very fair game. Bring a false equivalence immediately to say, but Modi ji, came to Varanasi, contesting in Gujarat, but also came out. He was never in Varanasi before. He was never in the parliament before. The first time he chose to come to parliament, he didn't want to let go his own state, so he was there. And also because he was going to have to contest from the point of view, because at that time, what was the argument? Oh, Gujarat might accept him, the rest of the country may not. He proved that the rest of the country also will accept him. So he came out and proved. Now, but you have been in your constituency for 3 terms or 4 terms. Why would you want a second constituency? You, after all, proving yourself in the constituency in which you already been in the parliament. So this false comparison, looking for a second seat, no one questions his right, he can always choose. But to compare it with Modi ji, I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
Ma'am, there are different versions emerging on the issue of MI-17 crash on 27th of February in Budgam. One version is that it is a case of friendly fire. What is the MOD's opinion?
I don't think I'll want to give an opinion, even if I have one in public here. These are things which the armed forces themselves will disclose at some time.
Ma'am, you are concentrating largely on South India. There is an alliance that has been forged in Tamil Nadu. But don't you think that it weighs heavily against the rainbow coalition that you have worked out?
Maria, but what gives you the feeling that I'm concentrating on the south? I was in Gurgaon this morning. I went over to Karnataka. Then I also went over to, parts of Rajasthan. I keep moving everywhere. I don't particularly concentrate
talking about Tamil Nadu in particular, the rainbow coalition.
I'm not even. I'm concentrating on Delhi. I am the Prabari for Delhi for the Lok Sabha election.
Will we be seeing you contest these elections?
No.
That's very clear. Last question to you, and this is a question that we ask politicians because what's your assessment for 23rd?
Well, didn't you quote me by saying, you said when you talked about Rafael, that Bofors brought them down, Rafael will bring them back, bring us back. Rafael will bring us back. Rafael, together with many other things that has been done in the last 5 years, will bring us back. Modi will become Prime Minister again in 2019.
Nirmala Sitaraman, thank you so much for your time here. Thank you.